I'm going live. Hello, chat. Please tell me if we are live. Are we alive? Well, regardless of whether or not we are alive, hello and welcome to this episode of the Level With Us Livecast with me, your host, Marco DeSantos, also known as the Mechanic Critic. And with me is the ever amazing, ever wonderful project manager of Level 99 Games himself,
Josh, also known as A3. How's it going, everybody?
Yo, it's been a while, fam bam. It's definitely been a while. Last time we were here, we were playing some Bullet, and right now we're gonna talk even more about Bullet. For people who don't know, around a few months ago, a few livecasts ago, we made Bullet Heroine live on stream from scratch. Now we're going to make the boss for that heroine. So, Josh, can you give us a little rundown of who this heroine is and what do they do?
Sure. So, we didn't quite finish up about the lore of the character thing on the stream. We just kind of got the mechanics out. But this is what we're referring to as Shark Girl. That's obviously not her final name. She's an Atlantean, a race of, the mythical city Atlantis in this world existed at one point, still exists somewhere in the ocean, and she is a part shark, part human person from that mythical city that has either now surfaced or become accessible, like Earthlings have found out that it's still there or whatever.
Right.
And she's one of these people. So we're gonna
let's
dig more to her boss form today.
Let's talk a little bit about her mechanics, though. So her unique ability name, or UA name, as we like to call it in bullet design, is Tunnel Vision. So what Tunnel Vision does is that when you use an action, you basically have to spam the same action forever. So you pick an action, you commit to it for the entire round, right?
Right, so this is what we call in our design terms as like a negative U, right? It's not a good thing. It is a restriction that allows us to make her actions more powerful because she can only use one on a turn, one type of action on a turn.
Right. So one thing that's really interesting about this character is that so when we made this UA, right, we talked about the character's power. And we kind of figured out that her power was actually pseudo-useless, right? Where it would allow her to essentially wall hack for people, right? She can see people through walls, but while
she can focus in on one thing, but you can't see anything else.
Right, exactly.
Like,
so
while she's using it.
So it's like, she can wall hack someone, but then she doesn't see the walls either. So she can bump into walls and stuff. So that's why it's a negative UA. Of course, to compensate, her actions are amazing, right? So she has 0 AP, move a bullet to any space, 1 AP, draw 2 patterns, 1 AP, clear a red or pink bullet. Get it? Because she's a shark and she eats the blood. And then 7 AP, reveal all bullets in your current for the rest of the round, which means that you know all of your bullets are face up, and you can see all of your bullets.
Right, so you can place completely safely, or as safe as, the RNG allows you to.
Right. So, there you go. These are the abilities. I'm not sure about this final one yet. I mean, obviously none of this is final, right? But
right, this is all like version 0.5 version that we would, when we get to making this heroine eventually, if that happens, we would test her a bunch, of course, and make sure that all this works out.
Sure.
We also made most of her patterns as well. There's 2 more we didn't quite get to, but if you go patterns tab, you can show them. The majority of her patterns are pretty straightforward, like her character. They all mainly just involve any bullet requirements and reds and pinks.
So one thing about this character that people might start seeing is that her patterns can get a little wacky because they're a little harder to do than your average pattern. In case it wasn't clear, like for example, bite has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 requirements, or ambush has 1, 2, 3, 4 requirements. All of this is because her actions are so powerful that she can probably just do her hard patterns anyway, right?
These patterns aren't as hard as they look with her action loadout.
Yep. So, there you go. So, Josh, I guess we should start talking about how we go about making bosses for Bullet. I think that's what everybody's here for. Now that we have an idea about who this character is, what she does, How do we make a boss in Bullet?
So, kind of the two major considerations we look at first is one is mechanical and one is aesthetic, right? The mechanical thing we look at first is usually the question we answer is, can we weaponize her UA? And what that means is, can we take her UA, essentially slap it onto a boss verbatim, and see what that does to a heroine?
Well, not
right?
verbatim, right? But like,
More or less. If you took a heroine's UA and applied it to another heroine, is that a problem for them?
right.
Is that something they have to work? Is that something that creates a puzzle for that heroine to solve to beat the boss?
I think that's the first step, right? And it's not weaponizing the UA so much as it is every boss in Bullet is designed to essentially be a puzzle. A puzzle that you don't always win, by the way, because you still have to execute it. But the point is that
Right.
every boss presents some sort of game for somebody to play. And usually it's not just, oh, I just have to clear all the bullets a lot, right? Because that's...
Yeah, it's not just play the game good or anything.
Yeah,
It's like,
well,
do these patterns in a
usually-
certain way or deal with this condition, which might make you play differently.
Right, so usually it's all about forcing the players to play in a different way that makes the game harder as a result. Or don't force the players to do it, but the game becomes significantly harder if they don't unlock the puzzle, right? So for example, a good example of the first design, which is, you basically force the players to play a game harder, is when you look at the Fanged Sun. The Fanged Sun basically just creates a bunch of patterns that if you don't do, you will die, right? So that's basically taking the game and making it harder. The other one is you don't forcefully make the players do things, and instead you make them figure out a trick or a puzzle in order to succeed against the boss. So for example, the biggest example here is Ghost in the Machine, which apparently everybody finds super difficult to beat. But that's because she's designed to trick you, or rather, she's designed that you can't easily beat her just by playing the game normally. You have to figure out the puzzle or the trick to beating her. Which, by the way, is one of the rounds. Just don't bother about her shields and just clear as much as you can instead of trying to do exactly the shield amount.
Spoilers.
Spoilers! Right? But that just goes to show that there are many angles by which we can, create a boss. And no matter what angle we take, the point is that it has to be one of those two things, because otherwise you'll end up with an easy boss. And, this happened with Senka, for example, in the bout, which was, pseudo-intentional, right? Because we were like, well, it's just play Bullet good. And that's not terrible, right? As everybody says, we need a tutorial boss. But the thing is, a boss isn't truly difficult unless it's one of those two things, right? And for a lot of people who want difficulty or who want to replay a boss over and over again, usually they would want to fight a boss that either challenges them or has a weird trick that makes it, difficult to execute a win. And in that sense, to Josh's point, the big way we usually do this is we take the heroine's UA and then we kind of flip it on its head to make it bad for the players. For example, right, Fang Sun is, hey, I have a lot of patterns. So we were like, well, obviously, if the players have to deal with a lot of boss patterns, then that's really bad for them, right? Sometimes this doesn't work out the same way because, for example, their UA is really hard to weaponize, right? So a good example of this is, again, Ghost in the Machine. We couldn't, make people start doing addition on their patterns like Ling Ling does, right? So,
Right, or like Senka's, Bakufa. Hey, you couldn't make a bunch of extra crossers and put them on your board. Heroines with specific pattern requirements are usually harder to weaponize. Those are actually more fun in opinion because then we can just do whatever we want.
Right.
When that test fails, when the weapon test fails, we lean heavier on theme and go, well, what is this character's boss mode flavor-wise, and what can we do to mech is that? And that's kind of the other, this good segue. The flavor consideration we have for the boss is bosses are supposed to look pretty cool and, if possible, be big and grandiose and on a bigger scale or size than their heroine form, right?
Right.
Good examples of this would be like, Bauk, Senka is in silhouette. She has a giant sniper rifle that's big and scary. Are there any in Star that we could tease?
I mean, we've
so
seen collective
like,
unconsciousness, right? Where
yeah, like Yin's boss, it's like she's in space and she's like, projecting this big hologram world.
well, she's
and
always
like,
in space, but yeah.
Well, right, but we get to see scale. Right? You go from, hologram projection of her to space, right? Or like, Adelheid's boss for, summons like this giant storm of bullets at you,
Right.
and this big scary art that is intimidating, but also conveys what you're doing mechanically to the player, right? Adelheid's boss is basically just deal with a bunch of bullets in a specific action, and that's what her art kind of is.
Yeah,
Mecha Mary is a giant robot fight where you have to deal with all these ridiculous robot parts, and as you fight, or you shut them off because you disable them.
Right.
By removing her powers.
You destroy the head, you destroy the arms, right? Like you essentially fight Voltron and you destroy each of the individual lions as you're doing the boss fight.
Right.
So that's really how Josh and I start the foundation of this. So usually, what happens is we come up with we check, can we weaponize this UA then? So forcing people to just use one action for the rest of the round, for example, right?
Yeah, that's probably not work, as is, right? There are heroines who will rely their actions to use their UA correctly, like Mariel, or
I mean,
who else?
It's not even that, right? Assuming if it's not, so that's a one consideration, right? We can't create a boss that on the surface alone just bodies a heroine or just turns off their entire ability, right? Because that's just not
there's
fun.
a lot of UAs that basically don't work unless you have actions, right? So sometimes you would just say, here's how your token works, and then your actions actually explain what you do with that token.
Exactly. So we can't just limit it like that. But even then, on like a purely mechanical balance level, this boss would be very difficult to balance because even if it's just move and draw a card or draw a pattern as your two singular actions, if you only had to do one of them, it would just feel really bad, right? People wouldn't have fun, right? It would just...
Yeah, it wouldn't just make the game hard to play. It would also just not be fun. It wouldn't be a good experience.
Right.
So, that kind of nixes that aspect. Is there a variant of this, action selection thing we could do? Maybe she gives you, like, a set of negative actions or that you have to use. They're like power-ups, but and they slot into your power slots instead of your team power-ups.
So she just
maybe
eats your team power-ups and gives you bad power-ups or something?
Yeah, but then she'd have to like force you to use them somehow. Oh, and that's weird. And
so
awful.
actually, here's another...
Yin Boss already does that too.
Here's another consideration, right? We're starting to spitball abilities. One consideration that we always make, and we haven't mentioned yet, is the fact that when we start thinking about abilities, one of us has to start thinking about how you mechanically write that on the card. Because, for example, Josh just explained, okay, well, what if she eats the team actions and then she gives these negative abilities? You have to understand that you can't just say, oh, that's how it works. You have to remember that at the end of the day, we have to write these abilities mechanically down. And by the looks of it, it starts like this boss needs like 4 sentences just to explain that one part of her ability where she eats your team actions and then she gives you bad power-ups, and these bad power-ups can be used like regular power-ups. Where do these bad power-ups go when they get discarded, for example, right? How do you get them back, right? So it's just like, it's crazy town, right? So, maybe that's not an angle we want to do simply because the text is too long. This doesn't always stop us if we think a concept is cool enough, or if we don't have any other way to go about this character's concept. We usually give in and let the UA be long. Youngja, for example.
Yeah, we have enough space in our text box, and we can lower fonts stuff to make a real UA work. You can see that on Youngja, you can see that on Boss No Stars. Some UAs are a little long, and that's okay as long as it creates a fun boss experience.
And as long as we've already gone through almost all the possibilities, right?
Right. Sometimes we have timetables as well for products. Like with Star. We're going to be telling you guys more soon, and because we have time, sometimes we don't have time to like redesign a boss, right? So we just kind of have to, lower the font size and make it work, or reword part UA to make it a little cleaner. Maybe just tack on an FAQ, even to make it work.
Yeah,
You know,
but
some
that's rarely
to
the
make
case,
concessions.
right? That's rarely
Usually
the
we
case.
don't have to bother with that. No, of course.
Yeah, because we just redesigned the character to make them simpler or to make them cooler, right? So let's start thinking about this. So no to the eating team actions.
Right. It sounds like this is one of the fun bosses where we can't start UA, so we can lean on flavor.
Well, not yet,
do
right?
whatever.
She could be
but if you consider more actiony things,
she could be the action tax heroine, right? Like every time you take an action that's different from the action you just took, you lose an AP. So she essentially soft.
right? If you don't play like her, you get taxed, but it doesn't force you to play.
Yeah, right. So that could be a way to do it, right? So it's like, she incentivizes you to play like her, but if you don't, it's not that the game stops you from doing it, it's just that you get taxed for it, right?
I definitely think that she's a really simple character, right? She's an easy difficulty heroine, and her whole like everything about her kit screams like straightforward, right? All her patterns are one word, her flavor text is one word, her U is literally, I tunnel vision you. So this is when we start talking ideals, right? It would be cool if she just had like a one-word boss that you read it and it's just really, really scary, right?
Right. And it's AP
what
taxing,
could that?
And it's AP taxing.
Maybe it involves actions, maybe it doesn't. But I think that ideally, whatever the final form of her boss is, it would be cool if she
right?
a one-word even her heroine is only a sentence. So it'd be really cool if her boss was just a sentence, a really big scary sentence that has lots of implications for you as a heroine when you fight her. But how much elegance can cram into sentence, right? How much boss?
So obviously, the scariest piece of text you can do is you lose, but I don't think that's good enough for a one sentence way, right?
I mean, you could talk condition, right? When condition occurs.
Yeah,
lose,
but that condition
right?
has to be overly complex, or else the players just lose instantly, right?
Right.
So it can't just. So if we want to keep it simple, we can't make it you lose, but we can make it you take a hit, right?
Right. Yeah, she could just hit you automatically when you fail a condition or meet a condition or whatnot.
Oh my gosh.
Thinking to go a bit into flavor, just to contextualize this boss a bit. Obviously, we don't have an art concept thing yet. What was kind of thinking, having not completely planned her Yoler, is that she'd so she has her weapon is a spear. She has some sort of like weird Atlantean coral.
It's like a trident, bident, or something.
Spear thing.
Yeah, it's like a bident or a trident, right?
So, something, maybe not a trident. I wanted to do spear because trident's like overdone, right? But yeah, some sort of pointy thrown weapon.
Okay, look. What is a spear but a trident without two prongs, right?
Right, sure. You can see my spear bias in other games like Battle and Erie's finisher is also a spear.
Well, it's called the Galaxy Spear Atomos.
Right. It wasn't originally, though. Fun fact, Galaxy Spear Atmos was originally Galaxy Sword Atmos. That was the name, the attack that Brad gave me when we started developing Erie, and I grew so attached to Erie that I thought it would be a shame to just give her a sword like every other character.
Give her
so I just changed it last second and printed it.
Yeah.
I think I did run it by Brad, but spears are a little less common.
So
let's
saying,
bring back.
Let's go! Yeah, it's hype, right?
Right.
In the background, I don't know if chat can hear it, but I'm also playing some of the star heroines' themes. So if you can identify some of them, that'd be really cool. But back to Shark Boss.
Right. So I think the point is that I think that she probably has some sort of weird magic tech weapon, right? Her power is very straightforward, but she has to fight with something, right? And Atlantis's kind of shtick, I guess, would say in the bullet says that they have this advanced technology that they've been developing for a bazillion years under the surface of the ocean. And whatever position the society, she's probably some sort of rank and file soldier or King's Guard or whatever.
Yeah, obviously, because her willpower's
she probably has
right?
some sort of cool. Yeah, exactly. Some sort of cool Magitech weapon that she knows how to use, or maybe she doesn't know how to tap into
it would be so funny
whatever.
if she wasn't even a soldier, right? It would be so hilarious if like the civilization of Atlantis is so advanced that like her weird Magitech spear is just like a Doctor Who like Sonic Screwdriver-esque thing where like every Joe Schmo just has one. Like it's like their version of a smartphone. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah.
you know, so it's not even a weapon in Atlantean terms, right? But because she's
But she like uses it as a weapon because of her, profession, or just because she's an aggressive type of character.
or you know,
whatnot.
yeah, it only gets function as a weapon in human society because human society is not advanced enough, right? Like in like imagine bringing a cell phone to like the Stone Age, right? Like you could use the phone as a weapon, right? Because you could like flash lights or like, you know, make sounds, right? And it would scare
Right.
some like primitive man or primitive person, right? So in that sense, like imagine her like super spear being some sort of like, you know, the Atlantean equivalent of a smartphone, and it just seems like it's a Magitech weapon because in actual society, or rather in human society, we're just not advanced enough, right? Like in Atlantean society, if you tried using it as a weapon against someone, like their magic force field armor just stops it immediately. So they're like, what are you trying to do, right? Anyway, besides the point.
Yeah,
it would be
all
hilarious
to say
if
is
she was
this is
a
something we
babysitter.
can work with. Yeah,
It would be hilarious if she was a babysitter.
maybe. Yeah.
Or some menial job that isn't even a soldier, right? Like she's just
Right.
like, you know, a hairdresser or something like this, right?
Uh-huh.
Some
I think the important is that she also has a weapon, right? This is something we could work.
yeah.
We chose to.
It doesn't
She has
have-
her tunnel vision power, but she can also use this weapon in her boss.
Right. So so that's one angle that we can use for this ability, right? Is we can leverage the weapon somehow, right?
Right. If we can't leverage her UA flavor wise, we might be able to leverage this weapon. But going to mechanics, what kind of scary one sentence UAs could we make? Maybe thing actions, maybe not. What can we say? When X condition is met, you get hit, right?
Okay.
Something that would be fun to play around, but also like would limit you enough to like have a puzzle to solve, so to speak.
Well, what? I was gonna.
And chat, if you'd like to propose things too, please. Type
Yeah,
ideas.
chat. Remember, this
Chat.
is a collaborative
It's
stream.
an
so-
open forum.
Yeah, it's an open forum. Shark Heroine. Casey Long says, Shark Heroine, you guys are going to be my best chums. Chum buds?
Wow.
No. So I was thinking about something along the lines of like, if you don't end your turn with more than X amount of AP, you take a hit. So basically she says like, don't spend too much AP or else I'll hit you, right? So that's kind of like, don't struggle in the water or else the shark will bite you.
Is that what balances boss does currently though?
No,
Did we weaponize her
no.
UA? I forget if we did.
No. Right, balance's boss is
I mean, we don't have to say it. We can just do it.
I mean,
as long as you can confirm that it's different.
I think it's different. So I'm pretty sure it's just one turn boss fight for balance, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. So we didn't weaponize her UA in that case because that would have been a problem. Some heroines don't have AP, like not a lot.
Yeah.
So, this would
oh,
also
you're
be a
right. So
problem
now we
for this
can't do
boss.
that, right? We can't do this
Right.
boss because some heroines don't have AP. So we can't do that. See, and again, this is part of the process, right? Whenever you come up with an idea, you can't just have certain heroines instantly lose. Like some heroines could have a harder time against the boss.
Yeah, they're a caveat. Obviously with how weird hair are and how weird boss are, like weird matchups is fine. If a hero has a hard time or an easy time against a boss, that's okay. If a heroine like can't even play against a boss, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And in this case, Nawa couldn't do anything. Is that a problem with Nawa's design? Maybe. Is that a problem with this boss design? We shouldn't mess with AP. Maybe.
I think
these
it's
are
also...
these are all future-proof considerations we have to consider when we do anything in game design.
Right. I don't think it's
How does
necessarily
making
a
one thing
problem
now
with
affect
Nawa, right?
consider?
Like creating an ability. One thing I also want to avoid during boss design, mostly because we've made a lot of bosses, is that I just don't want a boss that essentially just says lose X amount of AP every turn and just play with less AP, right? Because
that's also not fun. It's just like, okay, great. I'll just
whatever,
keep
right? Like imagine a boss that just said, start every turn with 2 AP. Like, what's the point, right? Like it could technically be like that if you had to like say form the pattern because you're like, ooh, technically I have to.
Yeah, if you did something else that made it more fun, for the fact that you don't have a lot of AP to work with. Like,
Right.
Sure.
But like, if the ability basically boils down to like, every turn spend at least 3 AP to not die, like, whatever. It's boring, right?
Yeah, that's just the thing you do. You don't have to figure it out. The game just tells you do this. Right.
So now with those in mind, I don't think we can weaponize this UA, right? So we have to start angling towards the lore. So angling towards the lore is we have the Magitech weapon, or whatever she wants to call it.
Yeah. I mean, we can still certainly have an ability that says whenever condition is met, you get hit, right? There are other angles of that.
But what's the condition,
idea.
Right? What's the condition?
Yeah, it could involve, I mean, what are aspects that heroines and bosses have that we can interact with, right? What's the design space? That's right. Every heroine has patterns. Every when puts bullets into their sight, every heroine has life. Every heroine has actions to some extent, and everyone can get team actions in boss mode.
Somebody has suggested Blood in the Water. That's their name for it. When someone takes damage, something else also happens.
Oh, so she gets like a freebie or like a bonus when she hits something.
Or whenever you take a hit, right? She does something, right?
She doubles down on it, like somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
She gets.
So the problem.
You get messed up twice as hard.
The problem with this ability is that obviously it's a snowball, right? If you take a
depending
hit,
on what the second part is.
I mean, no matter what it is, every bad thing that happens to you in Bullet results in you taking more hits, right? Like, there's no such thing as a thing in Bullet that just does. Like, there's no such thing as.
But you could do when you get hit, you discard a pattern, right? Like that would be pretty tame.
I mean, that's tame, but it also just snowballs, right? Because if you discard a pattern, that means you clear less, which means you take hits more likely, and then now it'll just snowball into you taking more hits, right?
I mean, potentially, right? Something like when you take a hit, place a bullet, that is much worse than like discard pattern, right? That could definitely snowball to you just getting hit 4 times.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, obviously, right? I wouldn't want to do that either, because again, you can just instantly die, right? And that's something we want to avoid, because the fun of a boss is that you get to play Bullet. And if the boss basically just says, well, you don't get to play Bullet, then what's the freaking point, right? So, I don't like the idea of this, where it just snowballs. It's an interesting idea, but mechanics-wise and balance-wise, and again, when it comes to designing, we also have to design with balancing in mind, right? It's a very hard thing to balance, right? If you take a hit...
Could be a cool heroine UA.
Oh, it could be
when you get hit. Actually, old versions of Mark from Bullet were kind of like that, where when she got hit,
she was like a berserker.
Cool bonus effects.
Yeah, like she would have specific effects on each of her lives, and every time she took a hit, she'd get a bonus based on what life got covered by the bullet, right?
But that design became untenable pretty quickly, which is why she's completely different.
I mean, if people want to know why, you can ask us in the comments. But I think we're dilly-dallying a bit too much. Let's settle on an ability. So obviously not. I don't think Snowball works. I don't think that weaponizing works. So let's go with the see-through you angle, or let's go with the weapon Magitech angle, right? So how does see-through?
How does she like focus in on a play? Right? Can she, in boss form, can she like just focus on hitting you gooder, right? So to speak.
She could do something like she could come. So one other design aspect we're thinking about is that if a heroine doesn't have a unique component, the boss shouldn't create a unique component for them, right? So for example, if you have a heroine without markers, you don't create their boss form to require markers, because that's just weird, right?
There would have to be a like markers in the heroine form. There would have to be an extremely good, fun, dynamic reason for a boss to specifically create run markers. And so far that hasn't happened. I don't think it's like completely out of the question, right? I think that there's probably boss design out there that if they created a marker to make their UI work, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But definitely, we should stay away from that if possible. I think that that's the kind of design where if a boss marker, we would immediately know that from what the boss flavor is or what their weaponized UA is or whatever. But yeah, definitely in this case we wouldn't want to create a marker. So
Oh, by the way, if
You know,
people
how
are
does-
going like, why is this taking so long? It's been 30 minutes and you guys haven't written anything. Because
That's how it goes.
because over 70% of the boss's meat comes from their ability. So the ability takes the longest to make. Because, you know, the entire boss's gimmick, playstyle, and puzzle is literally written out in the UA. So obviously it takes longer. Because with a heroine, right, for example, there's the UA, but she also has actions, right? So we can like kind of spread that out between them, the power budget. But bosses
Right.
only have UAs, right? And you're going
And
like,
you know, bosses have things like shield effects and patterns too, but these usually sprout from UA.
right.
We can't make patterns and shield effects in a vacuum because, you know, then we make a UA and go, oh, these patterns aren't useful or they don't help her.
Right. They need
So-
to all feel cohesive. So the UA needs to get settled on good. Concentration. Chat is saying, this boss has no pattern deck. This boss pattern is the same as the top pattern of your own discard without the clear icons. So that could work.
So she makes the heroine have to deal with a different boss pattern return.
No. So
Or the
this ability
requirements
does
are
not
different.
work in 99% of situations. You know why? Because if the top pattern of your discard is the boss pattern, right? That's basically what this is saying. Well, it means that you've used that pattern, which means that you have the requirements on your board, which means that there's no puzzle. Right?
Right. Unless the pattern clears within itself, you're gonna stall.
Yeah, so you'd only need to require you'd need to clear the pattern would need to clear itself, which not a lot of patterns do, because it's really good if a pattern clears within itself. So Okay. One sentence UAs, sharks, targeted. So here's another thing. I had an idea where it's like she would just attack one person over and over. Then I realized, oh, in one player, then there's no ability, right?
Well, if that attack makes that play differently, then it could work.
Yeah, but it can't just be take a hit, right? Like,
Well, no. It could be like a condition she imposes on a player, but only one player, not every player, right?
sure.
Like normally a boss imposes a condition on every player. What if this like doubled down that, where it imposes a double bad condition, but only on one player? Therefore, it still works in solo.
It's just really hard, I guess.
It's just really hard in solo. Yeah. I mean, she's definitely the kind of character that you don't want to fight one-on-one. She would probably like obliterate you.
Well, unless you were a space race,
She's-
but whatever, right?
Unless you're a space race, yeah. But she's definitely the type of character where like you don't fight this person one-on-one.
Yeah.
Like she would have a field day with you.
So let's think about seeing, because if you do that,
So, yeah,
what's
how can she go this person in particular?
screw this person
You know,
in particular, right?
Screw this person in particular.
Uh,
Right.
The problem with that is that I think it exacerbates like player elimination, right? Because if she just, because if we're doing this ability, right, she does it to one person, she just has to target that person for the rest of the game, right? And at that point, like that person will just end up dying before everybody else, and I don't like that, right?
That's okay if she does it quickly. Like if her UA was so good that you just fall like bullets, right? Like if player 1 loses, then player 2 loses like immediately.
Yeah.
Then player 3 loses like.
But I don't
after,
know
and
how
player
to
4
do
loses,
that,
like,
right? Like there doesn't seem to be any way in my mind to make that feel fair, because it just feel like, you know, one guy dies and then all of you die immediately after. Like that might as well just be the bug. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they may. If it's not lose turn after turn after turn, yeah, she will just say everyone loses, right? So that would be a hard thing to do correctly.
Is there anything else?
What if it's just I don't know if this.
Wait. Let's talk about the spear. What does the spear do?
That's a question I was hoping wouldn't ask because I didn't want to get into this on the stream. I
So,
don't know.
In my
That's
mind,
something I would want to think about and
Well-
not decide on in a 30-minute stream.
well, in my mind,
like,
well,
deep lore about a
it's
character.
been more than 30 minutes,
Well,
but
hour-long stream,
yeah.
whatever.
So in my mind, I'm already thinking that the spear definitely has to go through walls, right?
Sure.
Whether it's because it's so powerful that it just physically crashes through walls, or it's some magic spear and then like it turns into little nanites that phase through walls, or whatever the hell, right?
Right,
The
right,
point is that
right.
this heroine sees people through
She should,
walls.
yeah. If she can see you through a wall, she should would have hit you through a wall, right?
So
yeah,
no matter how that
cool.
implementation is, the spear is piercing, right? Like whether or not it's because of magic or because it goes through the walls or because it physically just
it doesn't matter, but
it doesn't matter. But how can we represent piercing in this game, right?
Right.
So obviously, in my mind, right, that has something to do with your current, or that has something to do with your incoming, or whatever, right?
I was gonna say, like, what if she? Because there's one thing she can force you to do that's kind like her. Anyway, what if she just said, like, when you place a bullet from your current, you have to place all of them. Period. That's it. That's the UA.
Okay.
You can choose when to start that, but when you start that, you take all of it.
Jesus. So that basically turns you into her, right? Because you become single-minded in clearing your bullets. And then
right. You can still use all your actions, and you can set up patterns from the previous turn in the meantime, but the second you bullet, they all come at you, right? And you have to be ready for it, right? That's the puzzle. Is how can I deal with 12 bullets in one turn or 15 bullets in one turn, kind of thing. And maybe patterns can compensate for that if it's a little too hard, right? Maybe if you do her pattern, if you fail her pattern,
something happens.
She does something to mitigate this balance-wise, right? Or make it harder. Who knows?
No.
But
I
really like this idea.
Odin. I don't know who Odin is.
Ragnarok in like MCU lore and I think tradition too. Technology in Ragnarok is just Magitech.
Right? Yeah. From Thor.
Yeah, like Thor's hammer is just Magitech, right? It's just science we don't understand.
Right. That's why the quote
and their
is
teleporting and stuff is just science.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why the quote is like, in my land, magic and technology are one and the same, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. This is kind of the same thing, where all these Atlanteans have weird Magitech that people on Earth just don't.
Okay, I really like that idea. Obviously, her intensity can't be too high, right? Because then you would just pull 10 and then you instantly...
Right, she has, like, pseudo-intensity because she forces you to pull once, right? She has you deal less bullets, but because you deal with them all at once, that's just as scary as having, like, 15 intensity,
is that boring to play against? Let me think. No, obviously. It's kind of boring, quote-unquote, on the first round. But every round afterwards, it becomes a choice of whether or not I pull now or I deal with my current bullets first, right? Right? Because on the first round, obviously, you just have to pull at the start. Pull everything at the start, right? Because, what are you gonna do? There's nothing on your board, right? Right?
Right.
So, first round, slightly boring. Okay, so Josh has started writing down the UA here. When you place a bullet from your current, you must place every bullet in your current.
Obviously, his wording isn't completely final, but
right.
Something along those
we
lines.
have to make it very clear that they can't start taking actions in the middle of it, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay, this doesn't seem too terrible, right? Assuming, okay, so what's the reasonable amount? Okay, now Marco has to step in, right? Design says we should do this. Marco goes like, okay, so what's the mathematical correct number of bullets we need to force players to pull without making it so that they just instantly die every time they do it, right? So on an empty board, pulling 10 is relatively safe, right? But you don't always have an empty board. So on round 1, you pull everything 10. That's safe, right? On round 2, you usually have around 3 to 4 bullets left because usually a heroine does 2 patterns, right? Or sometimes 3 patterns where some of them are suboptimal. So you clear around 6 to 7. Let's assume 7, right? So we'll have 3 bullets on our board. That means you can pull 7 bullets and still feel safe, right? Because if you could pull 10 bullets and feel safe, it means you can pull 7 bullets and feel safe, right? And then after that, you would clear around 6 or 7 again. And then can you pull around 7 bullets? So pulling 7 seems to be safe. Problemo is that that seems really easy, right? Because if you can just clear 7 or 6 every turn, then basically this boss does nothing, right? So it has to be a bit harder than 7. So if you pulled 8 bullets every turn, then we start getting into like there might be some wrinkles here, right? So I think the intensity should be 8.
8 for every shield? Or should
Yeah,
go up?
it can't ramp up, right? Because if you go to like 10 every turn where your sight is already filling up, you just die instantly, right? I guess.
Right.
I guess you could start with it like, easy, and then so it's like 7, 7, 8, 8, 9 or something like this, right? Like,
Right.
So
And it's at least a bit of a jump near the end.
Yeah. Like, pulling 9 sounds terrifying, assuming your board is full, right? So now what's the puzzle? The puzzle is essentially, can you clear the most amount of bullets? Like, basically, there's a hail of bullets that are about to hit you. Can you survive that, right? That's basically the...
Yeah, can you make your board state safe enough and you cross your fingers, right?
Right. Oh, okay. So, because the entire point is that she's charging her Magitech spear and she's about to freaking throw it at you, right? Like...
Yeah, it's when she hits you, right? This is effectively her spear coming at you in mechanical form, right?
Right. So the lore of this boss fight is that she's literally sniper honed in on you and you're hiding behind a wall or whatever, and she's essentially charging a laser, which is her Magitech spear, right? And she just shoots it at you. And it's coming.
Yeah, so when she attacks you, she really attacks you.
Yeah, it's coming, right? It's coming.
Yeah, because the game says you have to pull it in your current before you end your turn.
Oh, and
so,
this is really interesting because this kind of models the fact that she essentially wall hacks you, right? So she's really accurate. Like, that's the point, right? So so this kind of feels a little bit like the Bauk-ish, right? Because the Bauk is like...
It's kind of like Bauk 2 Electric Boogaloo, a little bit.
But that's not terrible, right? The gameplay itself is...
Yeah, that's okay. As long as it's, a lot of our designs are like different X character or different Y character or weird Z character, right? And that's okay. If... designs are pretty flexible, right? You can take a design and tweak it a bit. And as long as the experience is different enough, that's fine.
Right. I really like this. So one thing you might see here if I move this camera a bit is that Josh has placed the intensities here and also the breakpoints. The default breakpoints for a boss are 5, 10, 15, 20, which means 5 per player, right? Why does this boss have default breakpoints and why do some bosses don't? If we want to make a boss harder, we usually increase the breakpoints so that it's harder to kill them. A boss usually has default breakpoints if they're an aggressive boss, right? If the thing that they're doing basically will kill you before you can kill them anyway, right? So this boss definitely fits into that category because she essentially asks you to pull 7 bullets willy-nilly, right? So good luck.
Right.
Okay. Does she have shield effects?
Let's figure out what her patterns do first. Shield effects are usually the last thing we do. Kind of each aspect of a boss is like tuning, right? You start UA and then you see what can their patterns do to augment their UA, if anything. Sometimes they can just be independent. That's fine. And then we look at the shield effects and go, can we use these shield effects to do a little bit more tweaking? If they need to be a little bit more mean, or we want them to have some kind of like final.
Obviously, this character needs a desperation
get screwed
with that,
effect.
Right? This character.
Oh, absolutely. Her last shield should definitely do something mean.
Right.
Okay. I am not sure what yet, but
we'll
what?
See.
Let's talk about her pattern. See, like, what can they do? Usually, patterns on a boss
all have
do the same
effect.
thing
Yeah.
to accentuate what's going on. To hammer home to a player. This is the puzzle. This is the puzzle. This is the puzzle, right? Shark Girl's UA is really, really, really straightforward. I don't think this is the boss where her patterns need to do anything in specific to make this UA any better. Right?
This UA is already pretty freaking good, so it just needs...
The patterns, could just increase intensity if you fail them.
Oh, dude, exactly. Like, she charges her laser even more, right?
Yeah, she hits you even harder, right? On the next turn. She hits you once and she gets, kind of blood
and it's like,
kind of thing, and she wants to hit you harder next turn.
You've activated my, Mark II laser trident, whatever.
Right. So what's the wording for intense increasing? What is a boss that does this? I'm sure we've done this already.
So obviously, Mecha Mary does this.
templating, fun part of most board games.
Mecha Mary does this. I believe it's like
Mecha Mary
increase
does
your
this.
intensity by 4 or something like that.
Increase your, and we can fact check this later, but you know, I just
we
wanna
can fact check this later, but I'm pretty sure it's like increase your intensity by 4, whatever. Or it might be a different wording where it's like place X amount of bullets from the center into your bag. I'm not sure which one of those we landed on, and this is the problem. By the way,
I think it's intense. I think it's intensity. Yeah.
It's like not getting into cover on time. Yeah, that makes sense. So by the way, chat, because we've made so many versions of the game and so many templatings, blah, 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 it's really, really difficult to just, to just off the top of your head know what every templating decision you've ever made is. So this is why we have templating documents. This is why. Okay, Josh, it cannot start at 3.
I know.
It cannot be 3, man. What are you doing?
What kind of number do you want here?
Okay, remember.
I was gonna say to be crazy on here, you know, the left field here. What if it was increased intensity by 1 for each requirement you don't have?
Remember, boss has to be simple, Josh. Stop.
No, I know. That was my counterpoint to my argument. Is that's not simple enough, right? It should increase your intensity by a number.
So
right, but what is that number?
7. So I think 9 is dangerous, right? So 9. So increase your intensity by 2 turns all the 7s into 9s, which is dangerous. All the 8s
and it turns the 8s into 10s and the 9s.
And the 9 into an 11, which basically is a death sentence, right?
Right.
So these patterns to compensate should be decently. So compared to other bosses who do a similar thing, Mecha Mary increases your intensity by 4, but that pattern is really easy to do, and Mecha Mary has like 5 patterns up at one time. So I think this pattern should be the patterns here should be relatively simple, right? They should be like maybe 3 requirements or a color and a requirement, 4 requirements at most, right?
Yeah, I mean, we want them to be complex enough that a player has a chance of failing them, but not so complex that like like red barrel patterns, like, you know, they're super, you know, complicated where you die.
Okay, somebody fact checked for us. Papercraft A-Bomb is increase your intensity by 4 this round. So
this round, huh?
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a thing we might have removed to update for start. I wonder if this round is relevant. But we can put that
this round there because.
Is that a Mecha Mary thing, or is that just a standardization thing?
I think that's just a standardization thing. I think this round exists because people might be like, increase my intensity.
Yeah, is it a permanent increase? Yeah. Right. So that's fair. Since one of our pattern names is ambush, can it be a 3 instead? Because it's called ambush.
Sure, if you want. But cool. Josh.
Yeah, I do.
Josh. Remember, this boss is simple, so having one pattern, all the patterns look similar, except one of them is slightly different. It's rough. Right?
Okay, we can just make the number bigger. Like that's, this one's the different. The number is significant.
See, I think we can just represent ambush by making the pattern itself weird compared to all the others.
Like the pattern is just slightly harder.
No, not slightly harder. Like imagine every one of the patterns is any bullets, but then ambush is no bullets, right? Like you know what I mean? Like
right, yeah, it uses empty space or whatever.
Whatever, right?
Or color, more color or something.
That's the one in the tabletop sim mod. I didn't grab my physical copy, but I can. It's fine, no need. Stay on stream.
Yeah, we'll fact check all these before the press. This character isn't even scheduled for release. Yeah, we're just doing this.
We still have, we still have star heroines to do. When we create patterns, usually we just take the heroine patterns and then remove the clears, and then usually that creates the boss pattern.
Sometimes we definitely take the names of the heroine patterns for the most part. Shapes, it kind of depends on what the boss wants.
But yeah, this boss doesn't want anything, so it could just be non-clear versions of the heroine patterns.
Yeah, like Bite could just be, like this type of thing. You'll notice that my pattern creation for this is much different than the one you saw on the
heroine side
sheet. That's because I intentionally do this to make it clear to me and whoever looks at the sheet that this is a boss pattern and not a heroine pattern.
So,
also because when I originally made heart templates, I messed up and forgot to use columns correctly. But it worked out. It's fine. As long as whoever looks at the sheet understands that.
All right.
So this is Bite's requirements without clears, right? It's the teeth shape.
So obviously we can just
The
put
W.
bite here, right? As the
If a boss doesn't use this already, so we like kind of an unwritten rule bullet that pattern shape should always be unique amongst heroines and amongst bosses. I'm not sure if another boss has this shape already. I think Yunja might. But again, we can fact check this later. There's just, facts about boss development for people that are watching the stream. For now, it's fine. We'll just remember to check this.
And by the way,
future.
as a caveat to everyone, we're not even sure if this boss is good.
Yeah, of course. The final step of this is to put this TTS on R and test it
and play it
and make sure it doesn't fall apart. And if it falls apart, then
redesign.
We go, can we tweak this and make it not part, or do we have to completely change the UA? And ideally, we don't have to revamp a character. Most of the time, we don't, but occasionally we do, and we try not to be afraid of that, right? Usually, we develop bullet ones far enough ahead where if we need to revamp a UA or something, we have time to do that. We don't have to rush it.
These might be too hard, Josh.
I'm just taking the shapes from the patterns, but yes, they might be.
They
a
look way
little
too
hard.
Yeah. Well,
we can dumb these down a bit.
They
right?
aren't hard if it were any heroine but this one, or rather, if it were any against any other boss except this one. But because this boss makes you place all your bullets at once, it means you have to clear all of your bullets first, then place.
Doesn't that mean that these shapes will form instantly because you have a pretty full sight?
No, because you'll die.
Maybe. I mean, but if you don't die, these shapes will basically just automatically happen.
Not always, right? That's why ambush could be empties, because ambush then would most likely hit you, right? If it's a bunch of empties.
Right. What is ambush's shape?
It looks like the Jaws.
It's yeah.
It looks like Jaws, right?
Oh, it does look like the Jaws thing. That was totally intentional.
Yeah, it was. We literally did that
on
stream. Yeah.
Okay, great, good. We know what we're doing.
Yeah. That's also another thing about patterns, right? We try to make them look like what they're supposed to be. That's why
emphasis on try. Yeah.
That's why, for example, in Star, all of Yin's patterns are straight lines, but vertical only. Well, most of them are, because she attacks you from a satellite laser in space. Or a lot of Jill's patterns are vertical and horizontal lines because she shoots fireworks, right? And they go in straight lines.
Right. Yeah, Ria's patterns are like that too because she hits you with a baseball.
Bat.
Swings her bat at you.
Yeah, that's the most obvious ones. But there are other ones, like for example, how do I put this? A lot of the Mariel patterns look like her gun looks like a gun. Her sword looks like a sword, right? So there's that. So Josh is just filling up the patterns here. Some people might.
Again, these are mock-ups. We'd have to test these.
Jesus, this is so hard.
I'll remove one.
Yeah, remove one. What the heck? Okay, yeah, that's probably.
Rip is that. Okay. That one should be easy. Space, pink, like that.
Okay, that's probably.
So this is a starting point. This is good enough for now. Does she want any shield back? She probably wants a final shield effect at least.
Right.
Or one before final. Right? Should she have one final that's just a big intensity increase?
No. The final one, I mean, one before final might be just a big intensity increase, but I feel like that just feels like BS, right? Because then she just kills you, right?
That's kind of the intent of these final shields, right? It's a final get messed up.
Yeah, but it's not something you can play around, right? Like other ones you can play around. Like for example, when Fang Sun moves all of them down too, just remove all the ones that are bottom two, right?
Yeah, increasing your intensity on a shield isn't really something to play on. You can try to time it correctly, but of course the longer the game is on, the worse intensity increase is going to be for you.
Why would it be called Bite if she's throwing a giant laser spear? No, that's just the name of the pattern.
These are patterns here highlighted, and then these the UE name would be something to do with her spear, probably, like just attacking in general, right? This is just supposed to simulate, her attacking real good.
I mean, you could just put the name of her spear, right, as the UA.
Well, the name of her spear is probably a one-word name, so I don't know how clear that. You might have a U that's like this is a little behemoth, but.
Well, no, that's not the UA name. That's her name. The boss name. You're writing in the boss name field.
Yeah, I'm gonna copy paste it into the correct. You could do something like this, potentially.
Yeah.
So it's clear to the player.
Sorry.
UA is related to the spear.
I'm vetoing this. You have to spell Magitech with T-E-K instead of T-E-C-H.
Oh God, fine. Fine.
We're going Final Fantasy in here.
That already bugs me that in Indians natural magic is spelled with a K. That drives me insane. But well, yeah, we could do that in this.
Right.
But UA name we'll figure later, like her heroine. Some names are things I like to do last to be, so they're usually lore related.
Yeah, and we're not finalized on this.
I don't want to make deep lore decisions like this quickly.
No.
So
when you create a character, you don't need to know every aspect of their character's lore yet. You just need to know how they fight, right? Or at least their personality. And we know
sometimes, ideally, we have all of we're done before the boss for main, just so that we can be sure that we're making an art that is cool enough, right? That is scaled.
Yeah, but we know that this character's like by default, this character literally laser sights you and then essentially laser railgun spears you.
Right, like this boss art is gonna be some really aggressive attacks, or her spear is gonna look really cool.
Or it's already her throwing a spear and there's like a giant laser going through a wall.
Right, yeah, it's gonna be something like that. Yeah. So, we have an idea and that we're pretty sure is gonna be fine for, one, the artist to do in the first place, and two, that will look cool for.
Right, so we need to just think of a second to last or final shield, right?
Right. Can it not be X type of bullet hits you? There's a lot of final shields we have already do that.
No, we don't want to do that, right?
It'd be nice if we had a design space for final shields that wasn't just hit you.
But that's why the design space for second to final shields tend to be better, right?
Right, because you have an extra turn you have to deal with usually.
I already have an idea.
What's the idea?
Okay. She bounces all of your bullets.
Ha.
So she takes.
So yeah, on the last, it's like pseudo intensity increase, right?
Right.
But you know what they all are. So if you're a big turbo brain, you could kind of.
And they already safely went into your sight, so they technically can safely go back in, right? And you can't.
So second to final shield, not final shield.
No, final shield would be useless, right? Because then the heroines have won.
Yeah, because then you've already won. Yeah,
right. So return all bullets in your sight to your current.
Right.
So she just goes like, all right, enough of this, and then she charges her biggest laser boy, right?
Yeah, she basically double spears you.
Right.
With you get double intensity that turn effectively. So this is really interesting because if you know the shield is coming, which you should, because you can look at her board in advance if you're a lame-o type of person that wants to try hard. But if you know this is coming, you can go, okay, if we're gonna break the shield this turn and this is gonna happen to us, we got to make sure our sight's really clear.
Yeah, so
for realsies this time, so that she doesn't bounce as much.
There's also,
so yeah, you can play around it.
There's also the play around of just clear both the second to last and final shield in one round so that it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, you could break both of her last shields in the same turn. Hard to do with normal breakpoints, but possible.
Right. I mean, remember, this boss kills you, right? So it's probably possible. And again, this is another puzzle aspect of the game. If this second to final shield is so powerful that you're like, right? Then the secret puzzle is that you just have to clear the last two shields at the same time, right? You don't just break the second to final shield because it'll kill you.
Right. But it's really cool because her UA basically says you can't wait, right? If you try to wait and line up your double shield break, you have to deal with her UA for another turn.
Right. Which might kill you, right?
Which could kill you, right? So that's a real decision you have to make as a player, in theory, of course, for this untested boss. Other caveats we'd probably consider if we had more time to talk about it, like, does this boss play the same at every player account? I think so.
Yeah,
does this get weird at solo?
There's no difference.
I don't think so. Yeah, this is all fine. So that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
What are other considerations we usually... Oh, yeah, what's chat saying?
That has the added effect that she technically would be the best character against her own boss, as is the case with several heroines, since she has the ability to just see all her bullets. I think this is the one thing that why we purposely do not make heroines playable against their own boss form, is because most of the time they're actually either they're really good against their own boss or they get screwed by their own boss, right?
Yeah, this is completely part of the design. There's a reason that bosses are on the back heroine board, which physically means you can't use heroine against their boss is because, yeah, when you weaponize a UA, of course that means either you're going to have a cakewalk with it if you play that same heroine, or you're going to get really screwed hard if you use that same heroine. So you're not supposed to use a heroine as a boss. Obviously, you could buy 2 copies of Heart, or whoever,
yeah, but
whatever
it'll create a lot of
character
rules
potentially.
issues. For example,
Yeah.
right, you have Fugan D Minor against Adelheid, right? Adelheid says face down bullets are all colors, and then Fugan
Right,
D Minor
Fugan D
says
Minor says another thing.
face down
right.
bullets are no colors. So you're like, what?
How do you resolve that? Right. So
Which one?
not intentional, but it's fun. It is interesting to note that that is part of the design that we take into consideration. There could be a heroine that's similar to another heroine mechanically, maybe 2 heroines have like diagonal movement or whatever, and for whatever reason that's weird.
Dude,
with the boss
I already
interaction.
know what her warning text is.
Oh yeah.
I should just say shark. Just one word. Just say shark over and over.
There is a reason I don't want to do that, but I can't talk on this stream because that involves a product that we have not announced yet. But if you think really hard about that specific character that we haven't released yet, who has similar warning text, that's one word.
Fine,
to that.
Sharky.
Something that I was thinking more like, so sometimes in English, because of how weird English, you can make a sentence that involves the same word a bunch. So I kind of wanted to attempt to make a grammatically correct sentence that just uses the word spear. But I mean, with bullet warning text, that's obviously bad English intentionally. So you could have like, like this, what does that mean? Shut up.
Spear
type
spearing.
thing. The spear is spearing.
Yeah,
This falls into line with other warning texts.
that could make sense. In Filipino, we have a sentence that's like that, right? We have a sentence that's like baba baba, and then like the answer to that sentence is baba ba, which means are you going down, and then translates to yes, I am going down.
Right. Yeah, because then how that works out is it's just the same sound or word or whatever.
Right. Exactly. So maybe we could do something like that, right? But I don't know if English has any of those, right? Like, I'm not a native English speaker, so I don't know.
I mean, this is again fine for now. All the flavor stuff we can figure out later. UA name,
all right.
Character name, all that.
So let's give a brief summary of what this character is. So we have no idea what this character's name or subtitle is. We usually come up with these last. Oh gosh. So her UA is that when you place a bullet from your current, you must place every bullet in your current, which basically means the moment you start pulling, you can't stop, right? Which essentially translates to her essentially charging up a giant laser and then shooting it all at once, right?
Right, it simulates her attacking you real good, basically.
Right.
When she attacks you, she goes all out type of thing.
Right, or she just has, when she just throws her spear real nice, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, real, okay type of thing.
Oh! The word buffalo 7 times is a correct sentence. But that doesn't make sense for this character.
Right.
Because she's not a buffalo, she's a shark. So her intensity is 7, 8, 8, 9. How did we come up with this? Because of math. I know for a mathematical fact that you can pull 10 bullets in a row on your first turn on an empty site without technically taking a hit most of the time. Sometimes you pull like 4 4s and then you take a hit, but that's just, that's
it's highly unlikely, yeah.
Best variance, right? So pulling 10 straight is usually safe, which means that, and if on the first round you clear 7 or 6, which is the usual amount you clear, then that means on the next round you'll have 3 to 4 bullets in your sight, which means that if 10 is safe, 7 has to be safe, right? And then that means 8 is less safe, and 9 is getting into Crazy Town, right? So that's what makes the boss hard, is that over time, it becomes less and less safe to deal with her ability. But that also means that her patterns play into this. If you don't do her patterns, it becomes less and less safe, again, right? And obviously, her shield breaks do the same thing by essentially giving you pseudo-intensity. There's a play around to the shield that's not written anywhere on the character, but if you don't want to deal with the second to the last shield, then just double shield breaker, right?
Right, if you can.
Yeah, assuming you can survive 2 rounds in a row, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, we've been going for about an hour. If you guys have final questions, ask about this character, about Bullet in general.
How the design process works. I know that some people really like creating their own custom characters. So
yeah, people seem to like these designs. So we'll probably do another game, maybe Exceed or BattleCon, or I guess we did a BattleCon.
We already did a BattleCon.
We'll probably continue this design series with another game in our line eventually.
We'll do a design series for a game that isn't even announced yet, so people will just be so flabbergasted.
Wouldn't that be cool? We do an announcement with a design stream. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
People are like, "What are you even talking
show them
about?"
How we do an Argent class, or how we make an Argent class, or
yeah, we could do an Argent class eventually. We could do like Argent in general.
Oh, we just make an Argent room, game. Right?
Yeah, we make an Argent room, or like a support, or like maybe a whole suite. We make an Argent spell supporter room.
Let's just make an entire new department of magic for Argent.
Oh yeah, and a new playable, a new candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot we could do. So if you like see design streams, let us know in the comments and on the stream. We'll try to do more of these.
So
because
Josh,
I like these.
While we're waiting on chat to start asking more questions, we could start thinking about the name for this boss. No, I mean like the boss, not the heroine.
I want to go to my lore cave.
The boss, not the heroine. The boss, not the heroine.
No, I know.
And the boss name usually
I
is not the heroine.
I don't enough about her lore to come up with that. I don't. This is something that would be like her title in society, or her nick for herself, or a name that other people would give her.
Let's come up with a name for the UA. So, AKA, let's name the spear.
I don't know that I want the spear. Right? This is not just simulating her spear, right? This is just simulating her attacking you aggressively, right?
Okay.
Obviously, at the same, you don't want you. It's just like aggressive assault or whatever. Right?
No. It just has to be one word. That's the point of this character. It's one word.
Oh yeah. It has to be one. Can we say kill? Is that okay? Bullet.
So that's another thing that we're thinking about, right? Because when we create these games, there's also an age rating. So specific words we try to avoid in order to keep it PG or whatever, right? I believe Bullet is PG-13, right?
Bullet is 13+, so we can probably say kill.
Yeah.
It's not like it's called like maim or dismember or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe it has a period at the end instead of an exclamation point to accentuate it. Kind of like it's a quote. You could even put like Rie. It's a similar UA, right? Where her UA name is clearly her saying something. It's like nice try.
Yeah, nice
try.
I
think with an exclamation point.
All right. So Casey Long says an interesting stream would be hearing a brainstorm of how you would level 99 eyes. This is the first time I've ever heard this term. A genre, like what Argent did for worker placements, or
like how we can take a genre and innovate it, essentially.
Right. So that's kind of the thing that sneak preview into this is that it's to level 99 eyes a game is usually less about like how can we level 99 eyes a game, and infinitely more about, well, this genre, like there's 20 million games in this genre, how do you make it different, right? Like,
yeah, kind of when you say how do we level 9 and mechanic, we kind of level 9 a game, right? For us to in a mechanic, we're essentially making an entire new game in that process at that moment, right?
So we could try that.
So that would kind of be like we could try like creating an entirely new game on stream, sure.
Yeah, I mean, Brad and I have done something similar before when we tried to Dark Souls eyes everything. So we could try to level 99 eyes things.
Yeah, we have some video game type concepts we've been batting back and forth between people. We could bring some of those ideas, what types of video games haven't been board gamified yet, and we could talk about how would we turn those into board games.
Chat is saying the spear should just have an incredibly generic thing like an iPhone, since the spear's a commodity. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm proposing to Josh. Josh can take that or leave it, but I really love the idea that like the entire race of Atlanteans just has these like Magitech god spears, like by human standards, but to them it's just like, this is literally a child's toy. Like we give people guns as kids. Why? Because our society is so advanced that guns aren't dangerous anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something like that. I kind of like that. We could probably work. There is another Atlantean character in a game we haven't talked about. That,
yeah. A game.
I also to consider anything I do with Shark Girl to that character as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's a game
the lore
about
has to be consistent across
pursuits,
games.
right, Josh? It's a pursuit
Yeah.
game.
If you check out the Star mod, you can read the title of that tentative game in the rulebook.
Right, in the
So
rulebook. The title of that game is in the
So-
rulebook, so we've spoiled it already. But
We spoiled the game title, but that's it.
that's
I'm
it.
hoping to talk more about that game later this year, but we gotta wait for Star.
Yeah, we gotta wait for Star.
First.
Okay, chat is saying, oh, Bloodthirst. So Bloodthirst is really interesting to me because
Not bad.
it fits the theme, right? But in my mind, Bloodthirst is an erudite word. It's a word that fancy, smart people use. That doesn't seem to be what this character's all about, right?
Yeah, it's not. Well, so there's two types of names, right? There's
What
you
the
know,
thing
one
is.
one that's more lore, one that conveys a concept to a player, right? This is one of the names that says, "Hey, player, this is what's going on. Like, this is what's happening. You know, this is the down low." And this is definitely that type of UA name. It's still one word, so it still kind of fits. It's a little fancier than she would normally use, but if we're saying that this is meant to convey what's going on to the player, maybe it's okay.
Sure.
I
mean, like Bloodthirst.
I would definitely consider it,
Yeah, it's a
but
consideration.
surely there's a word like Bloodthirst that's shorter, right? You know, obviously we don't have to decide that now, but I do like Bloodthirst more than Kill. You know, her quote, hacker quote can just be
Kill. Her quote can just be kill.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Oh my god. Chat saying, I got it. The spear's name is Spear. I hate it.
I kind of really like that.
Oh no.
I really like that her weapon has an. That's kind of an unwritten rule for characters in Cycle 6 7 is if they have an item, they're named.
Yeah, a lot of the items a lot of everyone's weapons have names. So
You might find that out in another one that we've been planning later, and I'm glad that Shark Girl has a named weapon because it lets me make another pattern for that character that I was running my ideas for. So
Frenzy?
thanks, chat, for these design streams.
Frenzy might work. As in feeding Frenzy. Could work.
Right.
I like Frenzy.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, those are really good names. She just skipped through registration and kept the default name.
Right.
Oh man. So here's my idea. It's not named Spear, okay? It's named whatever the Atlantean translation for spear is.
Right, whatever the Atlantean word. I mean, I think that for English-speaking audiences, we would translate that to spear.
Sure. I don't know, because I kind of really like the thing like in anime where it's like you name the dog Inu, right? So even in the translation, they just still call the dog Inu.
They just call them Inu, yeah, right.
Right. So I kind of like the idea of like, you know, people who don't know will think it's some fancy name, but then people in the know just know that it's just named after what it is.
Right. This is a thing, though, that might cascade our other game, which is what I would worry about. Making up,
An entire language.
you know, a fake language for this one thing. It could cascade to that other character.
I mean, who knows,
also,
right? Like it's kind
Who
of like
knows?
when you know how a lot of rivers in Europe are just named the river, but the word, like, you know, it's like, you know,
yeah, the name of river in X language, river.
right. Which makes like no sense, but you know,
But you know, we have direction for now. And I think we've figured out this boss enough to proceed forward on our
let's just print this character. Let's just do it. Let's just make Shark Girl.
I mean, I definitely want to make this hair. When we've spent 2 designs making her hair, I definitely want to see this heroine exist. When and where, you guys will have to wait and see.
Right. So for people who
do we have plans for this? Probably.
For people who want to get the screenshot so that you can, I don't know, play this with PNP or put it in Tabletop Sim yourself. There you go. Here's Bloodthirst/Frenzy. Here are the patterns. Here are their effects and the UA effects. And then here are her shield effects and her intensity. This is the first, second, third, fourth, and last shield. That's why the format is like this. Alright, hey Josh, it was a really fun stream to have with you today. Hopefully...
Yeah, I really like these design streams, so I hope we get to do more of them.
Yeah, I hope so too. Hopefully you the fans enjoyed watching us argue. Oh, so now you have a good idea of how bosses are made and how much thought goes into them, and I think this is actually a really fast one. Usually we spend way longer than this in a single character.
Yeah, a lot of bullet design happens like really early on, right? So that we have time to, argue about all of these things when we're not on a timetable.
Right.
So
yeah, so it's
yeah,
like,
a lot of stuff happens really far in advance.
Which is good, right? Like, this is why people
Yeah.
always wonder, it's like, how could you say that you have an expansion for Bullet when Bullet hasn't delivered yet? Well, that's because Bullet was technically done in development 8 months ago, and we've had 8 months to come up with an expansion. Right?
Right. Like I design bullet heroines in my spare time for fun. So
You're crazy. You're crazy. Stop working. Stop working after hours.
I know. I need to get better at that.
We
but
promised. Brad told us to stop doing this, right? Like, so
Right.
For once, your boss is ethically telling you to stop overtiming. Like, take it, man. Most people would.
Yeah,
kill you.
there will be work time to do design, at some point. In the
Alright, we can just turn this into design. Screw it. Let's just make the next level 99 games on stream next week. Alright, sorry, 2 weeks from now. Right?
2
Like,
weeks from now.
let's take a genre that, randomly roll a genre. Battle Royales. Alright, let's go. Right? Like, let's level 99ize a Battle Royale or something.
It's definitely something we can consider talking about, but
Right.
we'll see in 2 weeks what we're gonna be doing.
Right. So without much else to say, it's been me, your host, Marcus Santos, also known as Mechanic Critic, thanking all of you for watching us, and hopefully you enjoyed the stream. Some people in chat are saying they did, so I'm really glad about that. With
Great.
me has been the ever amazing, ever wonderful designer of Bullet himself.
Josh, also known as Ithri. Happy gaming,
Happy
everyone.
gaming, folks! And what's our version of Don't Forget Your Special Action for Bullet?
Don't forget to play. I don't think we have one yet.
Don't
do
forget
we?
your star actions, and we'll see you 2
Alright.
weeks from now. Bye!
Bye.